Hello, my name's Darren Holmes, and today I want to take you back to installing MicroPython, and I had a few questions when I was installing it. So I just want to play you a little clip from the Chapter 1 video. If you go ahead and do a right click on that and ask for the properties, you can see we have approximately 127 megabytes of room. So this is being opened up as a USB drive. The file system is FAT for File Allocation Table. So here's my D drive with the two files in here. So what I thought I would do is I'd go to my Downloads directory, and in here I have the copy of the book that we've been using, version 10. So I thought I would go ahead and I would just do a copy and go over to the D drive and do a paste. So my thought was that I would always have a copy of the book on my Raspberry Pi Pico ready to be used. So over on my Pico drive D, I've copied the PDF of the book that we're using. So I'm just going to go ahead and double click on that, and you can see it opens up the book. Get started with MicroPython on the Raspberry Pi Pico. So what I'm going to do is safely eject my media, so that should close all the files on the D drive. So I've unplugged my Pico and plugged it back in again, holding down the boot select button. And when it loads up, you can see my copy of the book has now disappeared. So it doesn't actually copy it onto the Raspberry Pi Pico. So I'm trying to find some answers as to why. So I went digging around in the RP2040 datasheet, and in section 2.8.4 it talks about the USB mass storage interface. So down here we have the RPI-RP2 drive, and it says the RP2040 appears as a standard 128 megabyte flash drive, and it has the name RPI-RP2, and it's formatted as a single partition with a FAT16. So FAT stands for File Allocation Table, and it's 16-bit entries. So in here it tells you there's two files. The info_uf2.txt contains a string description of the UF2 bootloader and version. So we've seen that. And the index.html file that redirects you to information about the device. It says any type of file may be written to the USB drive from the host. However, in general, these are not stored and only appear to be so because of caching on the host side. So basically what it's saying is you can copy any file over onto this small hard drive as it appears on your Windows Explorer screen, and you can access the file, but what you're really accessing is a file that is cached or ready to be sent. Keep in mind when you click on the bottom here and you say eject, that's when all the files are written to your external drive. But it's saying here that they don't actually write. However, it says when an UF2 file is written to the device, the special contents are recognized and data is written to the specified locations in RAM or flash. So on the completed download of entire valid UF2 file, now keep in mind it says valid. If it's not valid, then it won't work. After that, the RP2040 automatically reboots to run the newly downloaded code. So hopefully you'll remember back to where I showed you the schematic for the Pico, and I showed you the boot select button, and the boot select button disables the flash boot, so it forces a USB boot. And we saw this part number, the W25Q, and we found out that was 16 megabit, meaning it was a 2 megabyte flash, and this is where that UF2 file gets stored. So now this opens up a couple more questions. I wanted to find out a little bit more about FAT16 and that 127 megabyte drive, and I also wanted to know a little bit more about a UF2 file. So I'm going to go on the internet and see if I can find some information on that. So doing a little search on Wikipedia, we come up with file allocation table. Basically, FAT is a file system developed for personal computers, originally developed way back in 1977 for use on floppy disks. It's often supported for compatibility reasons by current operating systems for personal computers, mobile devices, and embedded systems. So basically there was 3 major versions of FAT. It started with FAT 12, 16, and then 32. FAT is still commonly found on floppy disks, flash, and other solid-state memory cards, many portable and embedded devices. So it is kind of important. So I did find this website. It's on Undocumented and Hidden Secrets, and it says, for your information, officially Microsoft implemented FAT16 only beginning with MS-DOS 4. But you'll notice here it says beginning with MS-DOS 3.3, we could get that partition size up to a total of 128 megabytes. So that's the only information I could find on the 128 megabytes. So looking at the datasheet for the RP2040, and under Chapter 1, Introduction, Key Features, you can see that this processor is a dual ARM Cortex M0 Plus. And also notice in here it's a UF2 bootloader in ROM. So I wanted to find out what UF2 meant. So to answer that question, I ended up doing a Google search and finding this website, learn.sparkfun.com/tutorials/ARM programming/bootloaders. So this talks about ARM programming. It talks about bootloaders. And you can see in here it says the bootloader we recommend using is the UF2 bootloader. So UF2 is a file format designed by Microsoft and stands for USB flashing format. So the 2 represents 2 F's. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It says it allows for programming boards over the mass storage class or removable drive. So that's what happens when we plug in our Pico with the bootloader button pressed. It comes up as a mass storage device. So this allows us to send UF2 files to our Pico, and that actually puts it into the RAM for us. So the mystery of the 127 megabytes, the answer is it doesn't really exist. It's just there for the Windows operating system using the FAT16 file system. That leaves us with a few more questions. We've found that the Pico actually has 2 megabytes of RAM, and once we load the MicroPython interpreter on it, how much space does that leave for our Pico programs? So that's going to be a question for another day. So please don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and we'll be getting some more videos out to you soon. Thank you for watching.